a mote it is to trouble the mind's eye. In the most high and palmy state of Rome, a little ere the mightiest Julius fell, the graves stood tenantless, and the sheeted dead did squeak and gibber in the Roman streets, as stars with trains of fire and dews of blood. Disasters in the sun, and the moist star upon whose influence Neptune's empire stands was sick almost to doomsday with eclipse. And even the like precurse of feared events, as harbingers preceding still the fates, and prologue to the omen coming on, have heaven and earth together demonstrated unto our climatures and countrymen.
How all occasions do inform against me, and spur my dull revenge. What is a man, if his chief good and market of his time be but to sleep and feed? A beast, no more. Sure he that made us with such large discourse, looking before and after, gave us not that capability and godlike reason to fuss in us unused. Now whether it be bestial oblivion, or some craven scruple of thinking too precisely on the event, a thought which quartered hath but one part wisdom, and ever 3 parts coward. I do not know why yet I live to say this things to do, sith I have cause and will and strength and means to do it. Examples gross as earth exhort me. Witness this army of such mass and charge, led by a delicate and tender prince, whose spirit, with divine ambition puffed, makes mouths at the invisible event, exposing what is mortal and unsure to all that fortune, death, and danger dare, even for an eggshell. Rightly, to be great is not to stir without great argument, but greatly to find quarrel in a straw when honor's at the stake. How stand I, then, that have a father killed, a mother stained, excitements of my reason and my blood, and let all sleep, while to my shame I see the imminent death of 20,000 men, that for fantasy and trick of fame go to their graves like beds, fight for a plot whereon the numbers cannot try the cause, which is not tomb enough and continent to hide the slain. Oh, from this time forth my thoughts be bloody or be nothing worth.
She should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time, and all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Give him tending. He brings great news. The raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Come, spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here. Fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. Make thick my blood, and stop up the passage and access to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the affect and deed. Take my milk for gall. murthering ministers wherever in thy sightless substances thou wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark and cry, Hold, hold.
If it were done when 'tis done, 'twere well it were done quickly. If the assassination could trammel up the consequences and catch with his surcease success, if but this blow might be the be-all and end-all here upon this bank and shoal of time, we'd jump the life to come. But in these cases we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which, being taught, return to plague the inventor. This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poison chalice to our own lips. He's here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed. Then as his host, who should against his murderer bar the door, not bear the knife myself. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues shall plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off. And pity, like a naked newborn babe striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim horsed upon the sightless couriers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other.
You, it seems, come from the flyers. Well, no blame be to you, sir, for all was lost. But then the heavens fought, the king himself of his wings destitute, the army broken, and but the backs of the Britons seen all flying through a straight lane. The enemy full-hearted, lolling the tongue with slaughtering, with work more plentiful than tools to do it, struck down, some mortally, some slightly touched, and some falling merely through fear that the straight pass was damned with dead men hurt behind, and cowards living to die with lengthened shame. I'll tell you, it was close by the battle, ditched and walled with turf, which gave advantage to an ancient soldier, an honest one, I warrant, who deserved so long a breeding as his white beard came to in dunes for his country athwart the lane. He with 2 striplings, lads more like to run the country base than to commit such slaughter, with faces fit for mass, or rather fairer than those cased for preservation or shame, made good the passage, and cried to those that fled, Our Britons' hearts die flying, not our men. To darkness, fleet souls that fly backwards, stand, or we are Romans, and will give you that like beasts which you shun beastly, or may save only to look back and frown. Stand, stand! These 3, as confident as 3,000, for 3 are the file when all the rest do nothing. With this word, stand, stand, accommodated by the place, made more charming by their nobleness, which could have turned a distaff into a lance, gilded pale looks, part shame, part spirit renewed, that those that had turned coward to sit in war began to take courage by their example, and grin like lions gazing upon the pikes of the hunters.
Who will believe thee, Isabel? My unsoiled name, the austereness of my life, my vouch against you, and my place in the state will so your accusation overweigh that you shall stifle in your own report and smell of calumny. I have begun, and now I give my sensual race the rein. Fit thy consent to my sharp appetite. Lay by all nicety and prolixious blushes that banish what they sue for. Redeem thy brother by yielding up thy body to my will. Or else he must not only die the death, but thy unkindness shall his death draw out to lingering sufferance. Answer me tomorrow, or by the affection that now guides me most, I'll prove a tyrant to him. As for you, say what you can, my false, or ways your true.
Of comfort no man speak. Let's talk of graves, and worms, and epitaphs. Make dust our paper, and with rainy eyes write sorrow on the bosom of the earth. Let's choose executors, and talk of wills, and yet not so. For what can we bequeath save our deposed bodies to the ground? Our lands, our lives, and all our bowling brooks. Nothing can we call our own save death and that small model of the barren earth that serves as paste and cover to our bones. For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings, how some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered. For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king keeps death his court. And there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our lives were brass impregnable. And humored thus, comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle wall, and goodbye, king.
Was ever seen an emperor of Rome thus overborne, troubled, confronted thus, and for the sake of eagle justice used in such contempt? My lords, you know, as know the mighty gods, however these disturbers of our peace buzz about the people's ears, there naught have passed, but even with law, against the willful sons of old Andronicus. And what and if his sorrows so overcome his wits? Are we to be thus afflicted in his wrecks, his fits, his frenzy and his bitterness. And now he writes to heavens for his redress. See, here's to Jove, here's to Mercury, here's to Apollo, this to the god of war. Sweet scrolls to fly about the streets of Rome. What's this but libeling the Senate and blazoning our injustice everywhere? A goodly humor, is it not, my lords? For who would say in Rome no justice were? But if I live, his feigned ecstasies shall find no shelter in these outrages. But he and his shall know that justice lives in Saturninus' health, whom, if she sleep, he'll so awake as she, in fury, will cut off the proud conspirator that lives.
Methinks I am a prophet new inspired, and thus expiring do foretell of him. His fierce, rash blaze of riot cannot last, for violent fires soon burn out themselves. Gentle showers last long, but sudden storms are short. He tires betimes who spurs too fast betimes. With eager feeding food doth choke the feeder, light vanity, insatiate cormorant consuming means, makes prey upon itself. This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden demi-paradise, this fortress made by nature for herself, against infection and the hand of war. This happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea, which serves itself in the office of a wall, or as a moat defensive to a house against the envy of less happier lands. This blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this nurse, this royal womb of king, feared for their breed and famous by their birth, renowned as far from home, Christian service and true chivalry, as is the sepulchre in sudden Jewry. This land of such dear souls, this dear, dear land, dear for her reputation throughout the world, is now leased out. I died pronouncing it like to a tenement or a pelting farm. England, bound in with the triumphant sea whose rocky shores repel the siege of watery Neptune, is now bound in with shame, with inky blots and rotten parchment bonds. That England, which was wont to conquer others, has made shameful conquest of itself. Would that this stain would vanish with my life. This scandal would vanish with my life. Happy then were my ensuing death.